Ryan Dunn was the selection made by the Phoenix Suns yesterday, and we're going to be doing a deep dive looking at his skill set and looking at was this the right pick for the Phoenix Suns at pick 28. We'll also be looking at the possibility of the Suns looking at some other pieces in the draft today as the second round starts at 4 p.m. All of that and more on this episode of Suns Digest. I'm Bruce Velez with my co-host C.J. Pierre. Welcome back to another episode here. Before we dive into all of the news, though, you guys have been absolutely crushing it. Getting that subscribe button. 78% of you guys who watch these videos are not subscribed. And if you want to make sure you stay up to date on daily Phoenix Suns content through the entire offseason, this is the place for you. The draft is still at the end today. We still have some more free agency stuff to break down, so make sure you stay tuned. Without further ado, CJ, let's dive into the video though. Make sure to grab a snack. And like we mentioned, we're going to be doing a bit of a Ryan Dunn deep dive for you guys here in this episode. Yesterday, I did a little bit of an initial reaction video, kind of going over what we kind of saw from the Phoenix Suns is obviously they traded back. But CJ, I want to kind of give this to you and kind of get your thoughts because we haven't heard how you felt about this pick. What are your thoughts about the Suns selecting Ryan Dunn at pick 28?
Well, you kind of have to look at it at two lenses, right? Like it seems like the Suns got their guy. Over the past couple of days, there has been reports that they were more interested in getting Ryan Dunn right up, leading up to the draft. The ESPN had a mock draft that said that they were probably going to take him at number 22. What do they end up doing? James Jones kind of makes a move. He trades down, gets some more draft capital for the future, and in this draft, getting that second round pick, and they still get Ryan Dunn at pick number 28. So if you look at it in terms of what the Suns are trying to do in terms of what their intentions were, you have to like it. You get the guy that you wanted and you get him later than what you intended, plus you get extra draft capital. So in that regard, you have to look at it as a win if you're within the Suns organization. In terms of his fit and the kind of player that he is, it's a little bit of a head scratcher, got to be honest with you. Okay. It's Mike Budenholzer. We know that he's talked about how he wants more floor spacing and he wants to put up more shots from the perimeter. That's not what Ryan Dunn does. He is a solid defender. He is someone who is aggressive as a perimeter defender and a perimeter rebounder and coming in and grabbing boards as a guard, as a shooting guard, small forward. He's definitely someone who's going to get after it and hustle, but he's not a shooter. He's not someone who attacks from the perimeter. He's a good slasher, he's a good cutter and good in the fast break, but in terms of just pure shooting, that's not his forte. That's not his specialty. And in terms of where he then ends up thinking where you fit him into the lineup, I mean, yes, the Suns probably do need a guy who is a primary defender and someone who is going to be hard nosed and get that done. But at the same time, there's all these rumors that they're going to bring back Royce O'Neal, and that's kind of what his role is supposed to be. Now, Royce O'Neal is a little bit older, but he's also a better shooter and he's got a more veteran presence. So you'd think that when it comes to who's going to get the minutes, particularly in clutch time situations, you'd think that Royce O'Neal is going to get that call, but you maybe want someone else that's maybe more of a shooter to also be able to be on the floor and space the floor when you guys have guys like Durant and Booker and Beal, you know, Grayson Allen even, can, attack the basket as well. So it's kind of, I'm not exactly sure where he's going to find playing time with the roster as it's currently constructed. Now, obviously, they're going to be able to make some changes, make some additions. It's a little bit disappointing that they didn't grab a point guard. There's, Tyler Kolek was sitting there. He's still sitting there. He's available in the second round, but he's probably going to go high. So on that end, it's a little bit disappointing, but it just kind of goes to show that the Suns have a plan and they believe that they're executing that plan to the best of their ability. So on that front, you have to like it because they got their guy and they got him later than what it was expected.
I agree, CJ. You brought up some valid points. I think James Jones kind of took a wing under Brad Stevens, seeing him doing that last season, and said, "All right, I'll trade back and get some additional draft capital. We could still get the guy that we want." But yes, Ryan Dunn selected. We want to do a little bit more of a deep dive, kind of looking at his stats. You guys can see in college last year at Virginia, averaged around 8 points, 7 rebounds, 55% from the field, but 20% from 3 point range, like we mentioned, 52% from the free throw as well. Not the greatest free throw shooter. And like CJ brought up some valid points, Ryan Dunn is a great defender, great slasher, great guy who can kind of be a ready implant guy on the defensive side. But like you mentioned, with Royce O'Neal being a free agent and that being one of their top priorities, bringing him back and having Kevin Durant, necessarily, I don't think this was the best move that they could have went out and got. I think that he can be a talented defender, and I think he can translate and that help that out with this Sun squad, which is something they desperately need. But like we've mentioned, they have an abundance wing still have Nazir Little on the roster. We don't know what's going to be happening to him. So just kind of questioning, especially when Kolek and Collier were still there. But CJ, that gets into our next point, which is what we like and what we dislike kind of about this pick. We kind of already kind of got over it a little bit. But if there's anything more that you would like to kind of address or add to this, you're more than welcome to. For me personally, I like that they got a second round, an extra second round pick in this whole kind of move. And even though it might not be the best ready fit as we see with some roster construction, maybe it could be a better move for the development of this Suns team. But what are your kind of thoughts and kind of going into that as well?
Um, you know, at the end of the day, you have to end up liking the fact that they got more draft capital. I think that's the number one thing. The Suns are basically strapped when it comes to draft picks. Basically that pick number 22 is essentially all they had for the next 5 to 7 years, looking ahead to 2031. So you really had to, they say they have to make some kind of move to allow them to make sure that they have a future, beyond this season. Yeah, I mean, yes, you were a win now team, but you can't just look at this one year, particularly if you're a GM and James Jones. You have to plan for what this team's going to look like when Devin Booker is approaching his 30s and he's going to be, kind of going into the tail end of his prime. Who's going to be around? Kevin Durant's not going to stick around here forever. There has to be a plan, at least a preliminary plan in place, and making sure that you add more draft capital and drafting someone is important. But besides the fact that we talked about point guard, point guard, point guard. I think overall, you and I had kind of talked about it. We just wanted them to draft somebody. We wanted them to have a player on the team that they were going to have that was cheap, that could contribute right away, that was going to be there for the next, guaranteed to be there for the next 4 years, potentially 5 to 6 years, if he's able to get a contract extension. Regardless, we talked about point guard, we talked about interior big men. Khalil Ware was someone, but he was off the board. But I think that the fact that they are looking to the future, I think is a good sign that they added someone that they have in their plans beyond 2024, 2025.
I agree. And like you mentioned, we talked about this off stream on video, like all together. Like those trades with the Nurkic with the pick and maybe Nazir Little with the pick, we were like, all right, I guess, but that's not necessarily what we realistically want to see. We want some young talent in here. We want some, especially with this G League coming in here, you want to have some young talent to go up and down just in case some of those projects don't work out. And just having some young talent is great. CJ, I want to get to my last point of the video here. We're going to be obviously looking at the salary cap here for this Sun squad. And as we can see, they are in the second apron. They are strapped. We've talked about the priority of bringing Royce O'Neal back. They obviously they're bringing back Damian Lee on a player option. Guys like Eric Gordon and Drew Eubanks most likely not coming back. So CJ, with the Suns now having an additional second round pick, do you think that they should either hold that pick and just select who's ever there, or do you think they should try to trade up and possibly try to get one of those point guards? Like we mentioned, Tyler Kolek is still available. Kyle Filipowski is still available. There are some good names, talents at still in the second round. And with the draft starting this afternoon, do you think the Suns should, or do you think that they will try to possibly get up there?
I'm sure they'll probably make some calls and see what they can do. I would really love if they did something where they have this new second round pick that they just acquired and maybe package that with Nasir Little or something like that to try and move up and see if they can get into the, top 10 range at the beginning of the second round. Because like you said, still a lot of talented players. Kyle Filipowski, Tyler Kolek still there. There's still some guys who have some promise who could become solid contributors, maybe not like all rookie type players, but guys who can come in and play serviceable, get some minutes, guys who can develop, go down to the G League and, eventually, do some things for you. I think what's more realistic is probably that they're going to stay put at that second spot and kind of draft someone who's available, maybe another project. I think it's funny, and I hate to be the guy to bring this up, but they are slotted exactly one pick behind Los Angeles Lakers, who are projected to draft Bronny James. The irony of it all is just crazy that the two teams that are most in the Bronny discussion now are sitting there back to back with the opportunity to take him. I think all signs are pointing that the Lakers are going to draft Bronny. So if the Suns, if the interest in Bronny was serious, they will have to move that pick and jump above the Lakers. And it'll be interesting to see, like, maybe the Suns make a move and they trade up, and then maybe the Lakers make a move and they trade up, and then they're kind of like jockeying for position. I think that would be hilarious. I think that's going to be the story of the draft today, particularly is if Bronny gets drafted and where. But I think for the Phoenix Suns, I think it's smart to make a selection, stick there, make sure you get some more young talent at some point. Because remember, and I broke this down in a previous video, right now, if you just look at the guys who are slated to have a contract, there's only 8 guys on the roster right now. That's not, you can't build an NBA team with just 8 guys. The Suns have to add pieces. So the fact that they made this trade, made a draft pick, they have a second round pick. I'm sure they're gonna make some selection at some point, regardless of whether they stay put or up. Then that another pick. You still need more. So that's where the free agency is going to come into play. It'll be interesting to see exactly, what happens and how it plays out. But I like what the Suns are doing. I think that it's going to be, eyes to the future are there, and I think that's the important part. Matt Ishbia can talk all he wants about we're a win now team. Give that F them picks vibe, but they're making picks. So I think that's something that Suns fans should be happy about.
I agree, CJ, and I think you brought up some valid points. I think that Bronny story is absolutely hilarious. We were talking about that before, but that would be a lot hilarious. They're just jumping each other back and forth, similar to how we saw the Wizards jump at the Knicks yesterday to take their picks. I think that would be hilarious. You know what I mean? It'd just be crazy to see. But ultimately, I think that making a selection is smart. But if I were the Phoenix Suns, I would try to move off of one of our players that we have, maybe a Nazir Little with that second round pick, to even try to move up in that class to try to get one of those point guards or a guy that might be a little bit better ready than a guy at pick 50. But I agree. Selecting somebody is the key. Having somebody on this roster added so you can have Ryan Dunn and another draft pick, then that's 10 roster spots available. And then you can go out there and look for some two-way guys, possibly some young, underappreciated guys, or even some older veteran guys to kind of fill out this roster and kind of get it all
Yeah,
going.
and I think like just kind of what you mentioned there, like it kind of, if you trade like Nasir Little, that you kind of clear the way for a guy like Ryan Dunn to find more of his footing potentially in the roster and get a spot in the rotation, right? If the plan is still to sign Royce O'Neal, because Royce O'Neal's still not signed yet either. That's not
Yep.
official.
Hmm.
But so you kind of have to figure out exactly like what you're going to do, what your next move is. I think with this draft pick, I think it kind of leans to the fact that they're probably not going to trade Nurkic now. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of the vibe that I'm getting as well. And then we're going to look at maybe adding a point guard, maybe adding some big man help into that minimum market. So that might be where the Suns are leaning towards. But the fact that they're adding young talent, adding guys who are going to be able to develop within the system and be around for a few years. I think that's important. I think that's a good sign, and I think that is, it's a welcome thing for Suns fans to know that yes, we're a win now. Yes, we're focused on the big three. We're keeping that together. Not looking to trade Kevin Durant. Hopefully, in that sense, that seems to have come and gone, thankfully. But I think that the Suns now put themselves in a position to, yes, win now, but also build towards the future so they can continue to be a win now team.
I think so too, and I think that's the kind of instrument that we're going to see through these new teams building with the CBA. You got to have some young guys that can look to blossom, possibly if your stars exit out, but you got to have those stars to also keep the fans happy and wanting to push for a championship. But CJ, we brought up some valid points diving in on Ryan Dunn, talking about how he fits, how we don't like some of his fits with this Suns squad, but ultimately this Suns team is going to make a bunch of adjustments, bunch of changes throughout tonight with the draft and with free agency approaching us shortly. So if you guys want to make sure you stay up to date, make sure you stay on top of everything revolving around this Phoenix Suns team, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's been greatly appreciated. CJ and I have been creating videos for you guys who've been showing undivided support, and we're so close to that goal of 1,000 subscribers. You guys have been absolutely crushing it. So thank you guys so much. From your hosts, Bruce Velez and CJ Pierre, we'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and go Phoenix Suns.